All right, Michael, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Let's get it. Welcome back to the channel, investors. I am joined today by none other than Michael Romero for another Masters of the Market chat. Now, as you all know, every single week I am dishing out economic insights and brand new dividend stock ideas. But my favorite day of the week are these Masters of the Market chats because we're bringing on guys like Michael to join me and talking about dividend investing, his journey. Because the reality is, me, Michael, and all the other dividend investors out there, we just got started, and that snowball effect just continues to roll right along for us. So, without further ado, Michael, I want to first thank you for joining me on a Master of the Market chat. And I want to immediately just throw you, as I do to everybody, onto a hot seat. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course, brother. I want to first ask you, what is the total value of your dividend investment portfolio?
So the total value is around 105,000, but about half of that is not public.
Not public. Okay, so you have
Yeah,
the what shows up on YouTube, and then you have your
right.
YouTube account. I think honestly, all of us have the same gist. We have something we show on screen,
Yeah,
money tucked away.
yeah,
Now, I know from our exchanges prior to jumping on, sharing with me, you work in telecommunications. You're 30 years old, no kids yet, but
right,
soon to
right.
be, hopefully in that future. I want to know a little bit more about the Michael Romero story, how you got started with dividend investing, and of course why dividend investing out of all the investment strategies that are out there. So if you could just give us that general overview of your background.
All right. Well, I started, okay, so first and foremost, I was like 18 when I first started learning about investments and stuff because I figured there was more to life than just working. If people have millions of dollars or whatever, how did they get that? Like,
See, it kind of froze up a little bit.
I see you're kind of frozen. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
we'll
we're
go
back.
back. So people
All
are
right,
making
cool.
millions of dollars.
Right. So I see people or just people having extreme amounts of money, and I'm just trying to figure out how they make that or how they get that. So like 18, I started reading books and looking on YouTube and Google and trying to figure out what to do. And it all came down to around the same things: either make more money, invest in the stock market, or invest in real estate. So at the time, I couldn't really make more money because of my job situation. I couldn't invest in real estate due to not really having any money to invest in. So I was like, let me try with investing in the stock market. And from about probably 23 up until now, I've been investing, but a lot of it was on and off. I would start, I'd build up a small amount or a decent sized amount. For some reason, I would stop, pull the money out for things happen in life, right? So I'd have to
Sure.
take that money out. So about 4 or 5 years ago is when I really started to stick with it. And of course, I tried different strategies. I tried day trading. I tried different things until I found something that I liked and that I could really stick with. And then I came about dividend investing. And I was like, okay, this might be a better path for me. And then from there, I branched out to different things like certain types of options trading and stuff. Uh, but mainly sticking with the dividend growth investing.
Now, did you find like success in other investment strategies? Because for me personally, and I think a lot of the guys I've had on the show already, we always talk about like how we first started off. And I know with me, like there were a couple riskier bets I took, some of which I saw like Kathy Woods investing in whatever, X stock. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Let me test this. Lost some money there. Primarily, I got invested into ETFs because I played it incredibly safe. But did you have
Mm-hmm.
any luck with options trading and day trading?
So I did. I had some luck with it, right? But I knew that eventually that luck wasn't going to stay there. I'm just a regular person. I have a day job. I can't sit there and watch the markets all day. So I was taking risks, but risks to where I knew that I could kind of make money with it. And then
Sure.
I realized that I'm not going to be able to keep this up. So I'm going to try to figure something else out. And then what really happened was I made money in it, and then I started to slowly lose, but I was still able to keep money. And I was like, I'm not gonna sustain this. I'm gonna ultimately come crashing down. So
Sure. Sure. I feel like
yeah,
it's almost like one of those, like you go to Vegas, you see all the flashing lights, the
yeah,
machines, and noise, and you're like, heck yeah,
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm in this, I'm doing it. And then you
right.
start losing money, and it's like, all right, wait a second, maybe I should leave Vegas.
Yeah. I still came out on top, but I could have came out a little bit better, if I would have left at the peak.
Yeah. Do you think
But
if you had, I mean, this is a crazy question, right? Because it's like the what if and all in hindsight. But if you had left, took a massive risk and left the day job, would you have stuck with, trading, or is that something that's still of interest to you?
no, honestly, because I was super stressed out during trading, and even like I said, even though I found some success with it, I don't think the stress would have outweighed what I would have made from it. You know what I mean? At
Sure.
least for me personally, I don't like to deal with all kind of craziness internally. You know?
Sure. Yeah, that's exactly what I was honestly getting at. Because again, like for me, it's like I like to sleep at night. And
Right, right.
on top of being risk averse, it's like I like to know that the companies I'm investing in, they're very likely going to be around, for the next year, 5 years, 10 years out, and moreover, making me money as I'm investing into them.
Yeah.
I'd love to know from your standpoint, what were some of the first dividend stocks that really caught your attention and that you invested into?
So some of the first dividend stocks that I got into was Pfizer, Coke, and a couple of the monthly paying dividends, right? So right when I got first into it, to me the biggest negative for me at the time was, oh, I don't get paid monthly. I gotta wait, 2 months or 3 months to get paid. And then I found out about monthly paying REITs and stuff. I got into those. So Realty Income, some of the bad ones, PSEC, AGNC, stuff like that, which actually I still hold in my account, but I'm so far ahead with the money that I made in dividends. It's like, why sell? I'm still up,
Sure.
even though I might have a slight loss on paper.
Sure.
Um, Stuff like that. Big companies, I'm like, these bigger companies, I see other people invest in. Warren Buffett invests in Coke. I'm like, well, that's a no-brainer. Plus I like to drink Coke. So why not? Stuff like that. Before I actually learned how to do due diligence and really look into the value of a company, its intrinsic value, what's actually going on with it, I kind of just copycatted and did what felt right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I love that because honestly, I'm sure you get it as a fellow YouTuber, right? And by the way, Mike has a great channel that you must check out after this Masters of the Market chat is over. Be sure to head over there. He's got great dividend stock ideas, great insights as well. But I want to go back to this idea of picking stocks out, especially when you're just like a beginner, like a brand new investor. I feel like there's so many investors out there who get into the market. First of all, we all do the same thing. We go to the penny
Mm-hmm.
stocks. We go for
Yeah,
the meme stocks first. We test our luck, probably fail, and we make our way into some safer bets, dividend stocks. But
yeah,
what I love that you just said is that you went about initially picking stocks as in what the brands that you're already buying, right? What you're already
right.
consuming. I think that's one of the best strategies as a brand new investor, right? Before you start all the crazy amount of due diligence, it's like, first,
Yeah,
are you using the products? Do you understand the company?
for
How would
sure.
you say your investment strategy over time evolved? Like, what was the next step for you as an investor, if you can think back to those earlier years?
So and then again, still to this day, my investment philosophy and investment strategy is continuing to evolve. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I do different things now than I'll probably do in 2, 3, 4 years from now, possibly. We all grow as people, and I see the same thing as investing. So now, I would say back then, it was more of just, like I said, kind of copycat and doing whatever. Now I reinvest all of my dividends in a certain way. I don't automatically reinvest, right? The stuff I was getting back then would automatically reinvest through the drip program. Now I take that and I put whatever I make from the month into specific stocks that I'm trying to build up in, things like that. I also utilize covered calls with the stocks that I do own um, in dividend stocks. So it's like triple compounding, right? We got the compound interest plus the dividends, plus I'm also getting some money from the side from these covered calls and stuff like that. So really just trying to figure out what works for me and what feels good at the time. In a year from now, I might not want to do all that work with the to having to do everything myself. I might just want to automate it. So it's really whatever in my case works at the time.
Sure. No, I love that. It's like to each investor their own. What I heard from
Yeah.
actually, I'll copycat a fellow YouTuber who's out there, but he once shared with me, it's basically you got to look at your scoreboard. Your brokerage account is your scoreboard, and whatever works for you works for you. Just
Yeah.
you got points on the scoreboard,
Yes.
And so
Yes.
I love
Yes. I
that you
like that.
shared that, man. It's like you got to find the system that really works for you. And I feel
Right.
like there's so many investors out there on YouTube, especially, not necessarily the creators, the commenters who are jumping on a lot of dividend channels and saying like, why not dividend or why not growth stocks? Like forget dividend investing. And my
Hmm.
comment's always like, it works. Like it works for me. It may not work for you, but it's been working very well for me.
Exactly.
I want to throw this question over to you when it comes to dividend investing, because this is always something I talk about on Masters of the Market with different investors. When you started to build your portfolio, what would you say was one of the biggest mistakes that you've made early on, or that you feel a lot of investors are making, like the most common mistake?
Yeah. So there's quite a few that I've made, and I'd hate for everyone to continue making those mistakes. It's all right if you make it once or twice, but if you keep doing it, it becomes a problem. So for sure, is chasing that dividend, right? So big dividends coming in, but it's a bad company.
Sure.
Is it going to be sustainable? It's not really no growth. You might stay stuck there or even go down, especially with things like QILD, that it fluctuates, it goes up and down. So that, and also um, being too emotionally attached to specific stocks, or I hate to say it, but your money, right? You start seeing a stock go down and you freak out and you sell. So now you're at a loss when you can just wait and wait, or maybe even dollar cost average down. If you invest into the company, you invested for a reason, and don't forget the reason why. If it starts to backslide, if it starts to go not in your favor, you always got to go back to that why you invested in it to begin with, and not just panic and panic sell.
Sure, sure. When would you say is like an appropriate time to actually hit the panic button, get rid of it? Like, I'll be honest,
uh,
man, I had AT&T in my portfolio for a heck of a long
yeah.
time, and it's just been going downhill. I know there's a lot of hype around it now that there may be that come back and hold on to it
Mm-hmm.
with some investors. I made a decision like a month ago. I was like, I don't care what price it is. I'm going to slowly start to offload this stock. I don't
Yeah.
see much potential in it or a lot of growth. I know you work in telecommunications also, so this one might be an
Yeah.
interesting one for you to talk about. But like, what's the panic button for Mike Romero? Like, how do you know when to actually hit it?
um Man, and that's also something I'm trying to work on as well, is getting out when you need to get out, right? Like I said, we're all trying to learn this at the same time. We're all learning together. So for me, initially, I would say, like, again, depends on the person
Sure.
and your risk tolerance and everything. But if you really start panicking, if you have a lot of money in a particular company and there's some major event that happens that you don't think is going to turn around, and you might need this money 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, if you're not looking at that longer term turnaround,
Yeah.
then get out while you can, while you're not at such a major loss. But again, it depends on your risk tolerance and your outlook on the future, as far as how long term or short term you're willing to hold this company.
Sure.
So
No, I love that. It's for me, it's always about the long term. And I feel like
yeah.
the hardest part has been stomaching the news and the headlines.
Yes.
And it's like you see
Yes.
all these crazy headlines, like the stock market is gonna crash, never again to return. And you're just
Yeah.
sitting there, sweat coming down. You're like, maybe it will,
Yeah.
But I feel
Yeah.
like 100% and I like then going back into almost again, like you mentioned Warren Buffett, what he always shares is like, forget about the market. A lot of these
Hmm.
companies, if you're about to get invested into them, would you invest into them if the market didn't exist? Like, would you stand behind these companies
Right.
regardless of your investment into them and the market
Yeah.
and these fluctuations? Because that just means they're a good business.
Yeah.
So it's like at the
Yeah,
end of the day, for me, it's like I got to look at the business. I also look at the management teams. It's like what I stand behind
yeah,
these management teams
yeah.
are, and then of course you go into the capital and whatnot and valuations. But I feel like the overarching right is like, okay, long term, is this company going to make it or not? Do I have belief and conviction or not?
Yeah. I think that's an overlooked principle too, is looking at the people actually running the company. Because if they really don't have any backing behind them, or at least if they don't have the experience, it could be the greatest company in the world, but if they don't know how to work the company, then it's never going to work.
100%. That was like when I was just watching a documentary on Jamie Dimon. So when he went from Citi to JP Morgan way back when, he bought like an insane amount of JP Morgan shares, like went all in just to show shareholders that
Yeah,
he's in this
yeah,
long term. So it's always funny to look at like what insiders are doing, what they're saying, because it's always cute during earnings season. I feel like every CEO is like, oh, we're gonna do great. We have this
right,
guidance XYZ, but then their moves behind the scenes, it's like they're offloading shares, they're getting out, while everyone else is buying. So I'm always
yeah.
looking at what insiders are saying versus what they're doing. That's been an interesting one. But when it comes to your portfolio, I want to get a little bit more specific and really reach in underneath the hood of your dividend stock portfolio. And first, how many holdings are in there?
I have in my public account, I believe it is 21 holdings. I
21.
believe. Now, okay, so also here's the thing as well. Not every company in that portfolio a a dividend company, right? I own
True.
Tesla. I own Tesla. I own what else is I own Google. So it's like I'll make exceptions for specific companies that I like and that I see the future in, for things like that. But most of them, about 90% of my portfolio is dividend stocks. So
Gotta love when the truth comes out, man.
yeah, yeah,
So, transparently, though, I also hold Google and Tesla. These are, for me,
right,
again, looking into the future, it's like, are these stocks going to be, or companies rather, going to be there? And I also look at their initiative because, again, there's right now, I feel like there's still so much hate on Tesla and everybody saying
yes,
not going to make it. But it's like, I
yeah,
look at Elon Musk, a visionary, what he's trying to accomplish. And I'm also looking at Tesla vehicles in and of themselves, where we're moving in a green revolution. So for me, in terms of safety, and like I think dividend stocks is the most, the safest stocks. Then I
yeah,
look at the Tesla and the Google, I'm like, they also meet my criteria of insanely safe stocks.
right, right. And again, it depends on. You don't have to be specifically this type of investor. You don't have to be 100% dividend investor unless you are. That's nothing wrong with that. It's all about what works for you and how it makes your scoreboard look, like you said earlier,
Yeah.
right?
Now, when it comes to, so you got 21 holdings in that particular portfolio. I want to ask you this because it's always a large debate across dividend investors, I feel like. And I think you've seen some of the Masters of the Market series. Don't know which ones you've
Mm-hmm.
been able to watch, but there's been some dividend investors that have joined me here who have shared that their portfolios consist of like over 80, 90 holdings. And then
Whoa,
there's some, that are more in my camp where I'm like, I used to have, and I think this is actually
yeah,
the biggest mistakes, overloaded on like 40 positions, spread myself way
mm-hmm.
too thin. Then I listened to Bill Ackman and then read some other Bill Ackman books and then started trimming my portfolio down to whereas it's just under 20 at this point in time, a little bit more manageable for me and also allows me to like double down on these positions. But what would you say is the ideal amount of positions to hold within a portfolio? And do you have a call on how much a beginner should start to focus on, like focusing on maybe like the 5 to 10, or should they go all in and like kind of like I did? It's just like I'll buy that, get a little Oprah Winfrey, and I'll buy that one,
Yeah,
I'll buy this, I'll take that. It's all good.
yeah, yeah. Maybe they should do that first and get that out of their system. You know what I mean? I
Sure.
feel like everyone goes through that, but as far as like the correct amount, it's personal finance is personal. That's like my biggest philosophy is what works for me might not work for you. For me, around 20 stocks not definitely not like 25 is too much for me. I've had more, I've had less, and I'm okay with less. I'm actually in the process of right now of kind of cutting down certain positions and reallocating things here and there. So it just depends on what's going on with you in the market. But if you're beginning, the first thing I would say is, look, if you want a lot of holdings, look into an ETF, because that's all that is, right? VU, SPY, QQQ, they have sector ETFs, they have specific industry ETFs, whatever you want. If you want to invest in water, they have water ETFs. So like, it just depends.
Got an
If
ETF
you're
for
new to
everything.
invest, right, for everything. So definitely start with that. And if you want to pick stocks, then figure out what you like. If you own everything Apple, buy some Apple. If you are a hardcore Xbox fanatic, buy Microsoft. You know, this is not financial advice, but that's how I would start if I was starting all over and I had no idea and I was just watching some random people on the internet talk about it.
Yeah, no, look,
So
I love it. My uncle was a Fidelity money manager for 25 years, and I would always go there as a youngster to his house, and he'd always be sitting back with the newspaper open, all the tickers are there. And I remember so clearly what he would share, to me and my cousins, which was, get invested into companies and the companies you want to look for, right? Because the next question for us was always like, whoa, okay, that sounds simple enough, but then like what companies? And he
yeah,
share like, well, take a look down. Like, what shoes are you wearing? What clothes are you wearing? What do you like to play? Right, the Xbox. What
hmm,
computer do you have? Start investing into the actual companies instead of the products. I always harp on Starbucks with everybody who's like, such a Starbucks fanatic, and it's like, do you own
yeah,
the stock? No, and it's like, I'd rather own the stock and have Starbucks almost pay me to get in that line. I don't drink
yeah,
Starbucks coffee, to be honest with you. I think it's sugary. But
right,
nonetheless, it's like, why not get paid from these actual companies instead of just buying their product? Procter and Gamble is like another good one. My house is full of Procter and Gamble
yeah,
consumables, right? It's beyond me why no one's doing that, or at
yeah.
least thinking that way. And I think it's like the most simplistic way to start to think about where and how to invest. Um,
The first time I ever heard that idea that we just talked about is, if you own the product, you should buy it, right? Samsung, Apple, whatever it is. I didn't like that, never registered to me, and I had begun investing prior. This is when I was on and off, right? Not really knowing what to do, this and that. When I got actually um, full time, but actually really focused in investing and making sure I'm doing the right things, I come across that and I was like, whoa, this is like mind blowing to me. Why have I never thought about this? Or why has no one taught me this? Right. If you want to
sure.
invest, look into something that you already own, that you're wearing. If you're wearing the clothes, you're using the products, this and that.
Sure.
So
You mentioned a good point, that question of like, why hasn't anyone taught me this? But I'd love to go on the flip side of that script for you, because now you've seen quite a bit of success, both on YouTube. Again, got to check out Mike's channel. And also when it comes to investing, all around success and building a dividend portfolio and rolling that dividend snowball. What would you say are the top like 2 to 3 pieces of advice you've gotten so far on your investment journey that have really helped you as an investor?
probably the biggest, and it might sound funny, but the biggest piece of advice that really stuck with me and made me start to focus more on investing and just financial literacy in general was, it's not about how much you got, it's about how much you make it work,
Mm,
right? So when the person told me that, I was like, I've never heard that before. Like that's pretty smart, because again, my mind was like, you got to have a lot of money to start investing. You
sure.
know what I mean? So and when the mindset started to switch, um, going more into my later years, a couple years ago, was take advantage of an opportunity when you see it, especially if it's something crazy like when the pandemic happened. I was throwing money at the market. Like, I knew that this isn't gonna last. So a lot of my comeuppance comes from those two kind of ideas that someone gave me. So
Sure. No,
Yeah.
I love that, man. I remember this just brings me back to such a fond memory of being in New York City when I lived in Manhattan, and I was at the gym, and there was a guy who worked at the front desk, and we would always talk about investing here and there, and he would always say to me, his name was Jorge. He was always like, "Dude, I gotta get into the market. I gotta get started." And I was like, "How much money do you have like right now set aside?" And he's like, only a few $100s. And I'm like, Jorge, you got to jump in, man. Like,
Just jump in there. Yeah.
it started, and it was literally around just before March of 2020. And I said, just
Oof.
get ready for the market to drop, put the money in, don't look at it until 3 years, 4 years from now. And I promise you,
Yeah.
whether it's in an ETF or again, one of these companies, the Apples and Microsofts, right? Like you will end
Hmm.
up making money. I don't think today he actually invested it. I since moved out of Manhattan, but I could tell
Oh man.
I was there for another like 2, 3 years before I moved out of the city. And it was like, all right, did you get invested? Nah, man, I feel like I have to have $5,000, $10,000 in order to start. So I love that
Right.
you said that, man. It's like it's not about how much you're making, it's about how much you're actually putting away and able to grow.
Yeah.
What do you think stops people like in that regard? Like, what do you think that fear is?
Not knowing, just to not know how anything new is scary to some people. Like I know for me, it was the idea of I just don't know.
Mm.
I always assumed to make money, you needed to have a lot of money to make money. But it's like once you actually start, you start to realize that that's sure it helps to have a lot of money to make more money, but you got to start somewhere if you don't have it. So it's
Sure.
like just the fear of getting started and not really knowing, going into the unknown, you know?
What would you say to someone like put yourself in my shoes with Jorge? What would be like the word of wisdom or the advice for Mike Romero to be like, man, put the money in the market, do it.
My words of wisdom, if it was one of my buddies, I'd be like, download this, give me your phone. We about to do this right now. Like I'm gonna walk you through it while we're together to make sure you do it. Because if you leave something to someone 9 times out of 10, they're not gonna do it themselves if they haven't done it, if they've never done it before.
Sure.
So
Sure. No, I love that, man. It's really pushing people forward. And I think that's honestly what I see on your channel, first and foremost, so much optimism on top of, right, all the stock ideas and insights that you're leaving with investors. But it's like the optimism that I can appreciate on your end, even just before
yeah,
the call, the energy that came through the emails. It's like, hey, man, right now my girlfriend's father's in the hospital and you're like, take your time, do what you need to do. And so
yeah,
it's that energy, right, that I feel like you have and pushing people forward. Now, I want to know who in your life has pushed you forward and, that energetic, positive context, because it really is like the way you approach investing. I see it. So you got
yeah.
investment heroes that you've really looked up to. I mean, maybe it's the Warren Buffetts or Peter Lynch's, or maybe it's, the mom, dad, whoever it may be.
Really, I wouldn't say investment heroes, but like a lot of the ideas and like not ideas, but philosophy behind it is a lot of trial and error. And then also going to YouTube and seeing a bunch of YouTubers just figuring it out as they go, trying to figure it out and then try to teach me the same way. I'm like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it as far as investing. And then same thing, oh, if they can do the YouTube side, I can do it as well. So it's like kind of just passing the torch type of deal. What I pulled from them, I'm trying to give to the next person. So I
Love
guess
that.
it's all how I viewed it.
Who were like
You
your
know,
top 2 to 3 YouTubers that you initially
man.
started watching?
Uh, so initially it was uh Jeremy with financial education,
Yep.
right? Naturally, that's a backbone right there. Andre Jick. They have
Yep.
also have this guy named Bruce Wang. He no longer does YouTube, but he used to
Bruce.
do. You know
I
what I'm talking
know
about?
Bruce, man. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I don't think he does any more videos. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I love watching his videos. Just the also who is it? JJ Buckner.
Sure.
Um, a bunch of in this community, especially the finance community, pretty much all of the people before us, the OGs before us, I watched,
Sure.
and just pulled so much from, and that's where I figured if they can do it in both ends, the YouTube and you know investing, I can do it as well. So
Sure. I gotta say, going back to Bruce really quick, I would watch him, man. He had his little setup, like it was just his
Yeah,
people in the room. I think it was all blue behind them. But then he
yeah,
always talk about like realty income. Like that was his big stock. He was like, more
yeah,
money into realty income. It got me so jazzed up, man, about realty income and dividend investing. Likewise with Andre Jick. It's another big one. That's who I actually started watching. Him and for me it was Andre Jick, Jason Fieber. Jeremy was also in there, and Meet
mhm,
Kevin from time to time was in there. But
yeah,
when it came to dividend investing specifically, Bruce, Andre Jick, and Jason Fieber, all great guys, and literally the same attitude that you had, where it was like, if these guys can do it, like I not only can I do it, I should be doing it, right? Like,
right. I have an obligation at this point.
yeah, it's like I just now that you know something, it's like you can't not know. You can't unsee what you just saw. And it's like the way for me dividend investing worked, it was like find a company, a valued company that will be around for a long time,
Hmm.
invest into that company, at a fair undervalued valuation and hold on for the long term, man. And then do the next deal, which was tracking the dividends, starting a YouTube
Yeah,
channel and just showing other people that it can be done. I think that
yeah,
is like one of the most rewarding parts of my journey this far is just
for
showing
sure.
people that like, and we were talking about this before we started, right? It's like we're not anybody special, right? Like we're just the average Joes. We watched other, I guess, average Joe investors and popped
Yeah,
on here and started making it happen. But the key is that we just started.
hmm,
Just go.
yeah. Just even if you think you can't, just try anyway. Because what's the worst that can happen? You
Yeah.
know.
Might as well go to Vegas, man. It's like what you lose the money in Vegas or you can put it into the slots of the market, right? That's kind of how I look
Right.
at it. You got better odds in the market than you do in Vegas. So
Yeah.
I want
Yeah.
to ask you, man, when it comes to monthly income, how much on average, we could ballpark this one, how much on a per month are you bringing in?
So when it comes to just uh my public account,
Sure.
I would say right now it's floating right around $100. But I think this month I pulled in 120 because of a specialty thing that happened with QILD. They paid me twice this month. They do that like every other month. They'll
Yeah.
pay you twice. Uh so around $100, give or take.
That's almost where I'm averaging just about. I think I'm around like 120, 125, somewhere in that little window. Uh,
Hmm.
Man, are you a fan of monthly income, quarterly? Does it matter? Because that's another big topic. I feel like, first of all,
Yeah.
beginner investors, like I need the highest dividend yield and I need monthly income. And other
Yeah,
investors out there, a little bit more experience, say, I don't really
you
care when the
don't.
dividend check comes in, as long as it comes in. Where do you fall?
So now I like to have, I get paid every month from because I own so many different companies, but right now it doesn't matter. Like I I I'm smarter now, so I know that a lot of these monthly paying companies aren't really that good. So I'm gonna go with a company that has growth with it or a company that's well established that I don't have to worry about them cutting or losing majorly on the price. But starting out, one of the main reasons that kept me going was being able to see each month that dividend go up. So yeah, I had 4 or 5 monthly paying dividend REITs beginning because I needed that to keep me
Sure.
going. I know the type of person I am. If I don't see growth, I'm gonna get very, so not negative, but I'm gonna start to second guess. And that's what I didn't want, especially doing it with YouTube. I wanted to keep that pace pushing forward. So that's where I started out at. And once I got to a specific position with them, which I think is like 100, I think I own like 100 shares of like PSEC. It's not really much, right? It's a small
Yeah.
amount. 100 shares of PSEC, 100 shares of AGNC, of course, a couple other monthly paying companies like O Realty Income, SPHD, which I don't own much in SPHD, things like that, uh, help me to push forward and keep it growing. I no longer add more money into them except O Realty Income. I still do add a little bit of money here and there when I see fit.
Sure.
But like if that's what you want to do to begin with, then if it helps you to keep going, then do it. But don't stay there. Evolve with your strategy, evolve with your knowledge. Don't keep doing the same things that you were doing back then in the future when you have more insight on the market.
I love that. I love that, man. It's so key. I feel like fundamental. There's so many insights that you've mentioned along the way that you've been sprinkling in that I think every investor should really take away with, right? And like one of them I keep hearing pretty consistently is, first of all, get in the market and fail fast. Like learn your
Yes.
lessons, fail fast, and evolve. And I love it. Goes right back to what I just shared, man. The energy, the positivity, right?
Yeah.
The optimist investor. You should change your channel name.
Maybe so, bro. Maybe so. I've been looking to rebrand a little bit, maybe get away from that crunchy capital.
Speaking of, I want to ask you about the Crunchy Capital name. Where'd that name come from?
Oh man. So I my gamer tag is Crunchy White, right?
Yeah.
I so that it comes from that. It comes from Crunchy White and Crunchy Capital. I figured I got a YouTube channel. I've been looking to just because my name used to be Michael Romero on it, and I'm like, I want to switch it up. I want to try something different, and then I changed it to Crunchy Capital just because I thought my name was funny on Xbox
Sure.
and Capital, Crunchy Capital, this and that. But that all stems from one of my favorite hip hop groups, 3 6 Mafia, has a guy in it named Crunchy Black. So he's one of my favorite guys in there. So I'm like, I'm gonna just go Crunchy White on the Xbox, and then it all kind of stemmed from there. So
Yeah, I love that, man.
yeah,
I want to ask now when it comes to the pitfalls, right? Of some months, we'll go back here into dividend investing. You have, you're rolling this dividend snowball. You have funds coming in. It's growing month over month. You're getting excited. And, I'll take someone right now. I'm currently experiencing this where this past month, August, I brought in just under $90. And next month, I'm about to bring in over $500. But like, it's some
nice.
months, right? Because of how I'm now strategizing, where I'm cutting positions down, trimming, reallocating, looking to
Yeah,
build just a 10 to 12 position portfolio. Some months are just going to be bare bones, right? Not $100, $100 yet in passive income. Other months we got $500.
yeah.
It gets me down. I got to be honest. When people see on YouTube, I'm like,
Yeah,
and the total is $86.50.
yeah.
Super excited. But in the inside, I'm like, damn, is this the right, like, should I continue in this strategy? How would you say for one to handle like that type of pitfall or that emotional gut check when that month is slow? And usually too, right? A beginner investor, think back to my days making like $4.50.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
the fuel for me that I should keep going with dividend investing?
Um, really just to me, it would be the joy of watching it grow, right? You're $90 this month. So what in 3 more months is it going to be 90 again? Probably not, because you're going to invest more. So what is it going to be then? Is it going to be 95? Is it going to be 100? How much are you putting into it? And then if someone's out there and that bothers them, that they have such a low month and all the other months are a lot bigger, then you have the capability to do something about it. Like if your goal is to kind of equal out through all the months, then you can buy a stock that pays in that month, or you can add more money into the stocks that pay in that month. It just depends on you as a person and your investment strategy. And is it your goal to get the same amount of monthly income in the future, or does it not matter? Are you worried about that entirety of it in annual income?
Sure. So again, that longer term vision, keep looking,
Right.
keep your
Yeah.
head up, keep looking ahead, man. Get
Yeah.
excited about the $4.50. That's words of wisdom from Crunchy Capital.
Yeah, because I mean it's the lowest now. It's not going to be the same next time. It's going to be bigger next time. So it's
Yeah.
all growth. It's all growth.
Now you share that for personal finances, right? It's going to be personal to each and every one,
Hmm.
personal finances. When it comes to the steps before investing, I'd love to know what you think about like what someone should do when, they come on YouTube, and I see this happen a lot. So I want to kind of pick your brain about this. Someone comes on your YouTube channel, they see you doing the deal, making money, but they also have, I don't know, let's say debt, college debt's a big one, or even, mortgage. I don't know, they have debts, right? They have their debts. Maybe they don't have an emergency fund. I know you shared at the very beginning here that you had some things come up throughout your journey that you need to take money out of the market, how would you set yourself up differently now, knowing everything that you know as an investor?
Yeah.
How would you set yourself up differently before you even got invested in the market?
So if I would have to restart, right, go back from the beginning and do that, I would definitely get myself a bigger emergency fund, right? I would start with a bigger emergency fund and then also have a second fund where it's 3 to 6 months, however you want to do it. I know people say 3 to 6 months a year. I like having a year personally for
Sure.
me, just in case anything crazy happens, right? Like that. But just starting out, I probably wouldn't be able to have that. So anything would be fine. A month extra would be great. 2 months extra would be great. Whatever you can work with. And then hurry up and get started in investing. If
Sure.
I don't have any debts. If I have debts, figure out what is the bad debt, take care of that while I'm trying to build up my emergency fund as well. And then once I got that emergency fund built, start throwing more money at them debts. And then once the debts are done, as far as, again, bad debt, mortgage isn't necessarily a bad debt. If you have a mortgage, you're probably doing really, really well in life at this point,
Sure.
right? And then again, build up a secondary account 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, however much I feel safe doing, and then start attacking the market, start throwing money into the market and really trying to hit certain milestones. Boom, 500, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, keep going.
I got 1, 2, 3. I got a couple follow-ups, man.
Yeah, yeah,
My follow-ups here is when it comes to, again, before we get invested, what exactly is a bad debt versus a good debt? I know you mentioned mortgage, but for those newer investors out there, like, what's a good debt?
a
Like,
good debt. So if you have a mortgage, some people think it's a bad debt. I would say it's a good debt because you're trying to own a home. And interest rates, what, 8%, 6%, something like that right now? I mean, yeah, that's high, but it's better than having a 27% $10,000 credit card bill that you gotta, that's bad debt. Like you're not gaining anything from it. If you're not gaining anything from the debt, then it's, to me, bad debt.
sure.
You gain something from your student loans. You gain from that. So it depends on how much it is, and you, you know, I wouldn't necessarily call it a bad debt, but that would definitely not be on the good side either, because at that point I'm not gaining any equity, anything from it.
Sure.
So that's how I look
I love it. Now, I think you said you're single right now, so you might be the wisest man in all of YouTube because that
at it.
allows you to save a ridiculous amount of money.
Well, I'm not single. I'm not single. I just don't have any kids.
All right.
Yeah. So we're
He's taken, but no
right.
kidding.
I'm taking.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about budgeting because I know for me, I was a super saver. And even,
Yeah.
right, it was, I had, girlfriends, but I had my budget and I always made sure to tell, whomever I was dating, even my girlfriend now, it's like, this is my budget. This is what I'm after. This is kind of where I'm looking to take my
Hmm.
future. And I wanted to always get, a little understanding of where she is financially. And if we're going to financially be able to make it, right? Like together, are we financially compatible? But I want to talk a little bit about the budget because, like you shared, right? It's like once you set yourself up with that, what I call a lemon fund, the emergency fund, right? Life hands you lemons, make lemonade, right? You got the money.
Yeah.
Once you set yourself up with that fund, you're good to go in the market as long as you don't have those bad debts and you could start attacking the market. But now it comes down to, I feel like, the budget for a lot of us,
Yeah.
because a lot of people out there are actually not making six figures and some are just making ends meet. Some have, enough money to throw in 30-40% worth of their income, which is
Yeah.
amazing. What would you say is a good budgeting strategy, or how much should we aim to throw into a dividend investment portfolio?
So, and I just want to make it clear, I don't make six figures either, right? So, um, I'm probably about average. I get paid for my day job, right? Of course, I have make a little money from YouTube and sponsorships and stuff like that, but it's not six figures worth, should I say? But budget wise, what really, really changed the game for me was getting and it might sound like too much for some people, but this is what works for me. And it might not work for you. You might be able to take it and pick it apart and figure something else out yourself. But whenever I was able to make multiple bank accounts, multiple accounts, I have a bills account, a spending account, account for any type of payments I have going on as far as debts goes, a payment, an account for anything, right? And I have about 4 or 5 accounts. I don't remember right now, but automation.
Love
As
it.
soon as I get paid, everything, as soon as my money gets thrown into my spending account, which is the main account, it gets divided up and automatically transferred. So now, whatever I see in my spending account, that's what I have. So if I get paid, let's say $1,000 a week, and I divide it up, and I only see $400 because the other 600 got transferred into my bills account, my uh, investment account, my savings account, all of that, right? Then that's what I get to look forward to. If you let yourself try to do it, you're always going to shortchange your future self for the comfort of now, you know?
It's like the what is it? The pay yourself first type of concept where it's like
Basically,
take the
yeah,
money, divide it up, and don't look at probably 60%
yeah,
of it, right? Like just don't even look
yeah,
at it. Did you
yeah,
do you have the options for 401k or is that
yeah. I have options at my company. I also have stock options, which is pretty awesome. You know, I take full advantage of that. I get just a match from my 401k. I don't go any over. I do take advantage of the ESPP. Um, so I do have, at one point I had, because of YouTube, I had like 4 or 5 different accounts, just for content, right? And
sure.
I slowly got rid of everything because I'm just like, it's too much. And not everyone likes, all the different accounts. So I'm going to just stick with what works for me.
Sure.
But at one point you said earlier, you know, not everyone has the money to do certain things. Back then when I was doing all these accounts, I think it was with, it might have been, yeah, it was with Acorns and it was with M1 Finance. I did 2 different series. One was I invested $1 a day, and I did that for like a year and a half, right? So $7 a week I throw in there just to show that you can start with almost nothing and make. And I think I had got like a 10% return from that. So it's like,
That
whoa,
was with
yeah,
Acorns?
that was with Acorns, yeah. And then the other one was $5 a day, so 35 a week. So it's like, just to show you there's levels to it. You don't have to have a bunch of money just to start. If you want to start, you then start with whatever you have and just be
Sure.
consistent with it, because that consistency is what is going to keep you going and is the key to it.
Man, I have to share. I remember you actually starting the YouTube channel with the Acorns and the dollar a
Yeah.
day. Because I remember watching your channel like way back when it was even when I first started off YouTubing, and I wanted to steal that concept. I still do.
Do it, man. Do it. I don't get salty over stolen content because they say an amateur borrows but a professional steals.
I
You
love it. I
know,
love that,
so
man.
go for it, man.
So investors, the next show I'm gonna have is
Yeah, yeah,
no, but you know what? It was like I go back and forth too, because when I initially started YouTube, I had the goal of opening up an account. And again, I have my account that shows on screen, then I have my 401k, and then I have my real
right.
estate, account that's growing right now. So I have all these other accounts. But it's almost like now that I passed the $100,000 goal, like, all right, well, I do show every video like where I'm at. I'm like, it's
Hmm.
kind of boring at this point. And I'm like, a part of me goes, do I start a Robinhood account? I kind of like how you can show the app on the screen.
Yeah,
And the other half of me just goes, or I go in this other direction where instead of trying to hit $100,000 again, just show other investors how much a dollar a day can really do, especially today with like fractional shares. Like it's a
right.
brainer, man. Do you
Yeah.
remember how like the value at the end of the year, or how long did you end up doing that for the dollar a
I
day?
I think I ended up doing it for like 2 years or close to 2 years, and toward the end of that, it was, man, I'd be lying if I did say. I'd have to go back and look and and
Sure.
and email you if you really wanted to know, or
Sure.
you can look at, if y'all want to check it out. It's got its own playlist. It's Acorns playlist. but I don't remember. But it was like, I want to say close to like 2000. No, it couldn't have been. I don't remember, man. It's been so long ago, and I've done so much content in between there. But it was a significant amount. If it could have been my first emergency fund if I absolutely needed it to. $1 a day can really do a lot of damage if you're consistent with it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, all right, so you went from a single digit dollar a day, right? End of the year or 2 years, whatever it was, $4,000 or $5,000. Even that in of itself, for someone who claims to have nothing, right? Or
Right.
it means, they cannot spend anything. What's crazy to me is, like, I always share this with people because I sit down, I'm the head of marketing at Tip Ranks. Do a lot in my community where I'm at now. One of the things I love doing is sitting down, with folks and talking about finance and personal finance, honestly, more than investing. Because, investing, I don't really like to give, the investment advice of here's where you should
Yeah.
put your money. I like to say, like, here's some ideas, but you go do your due diligence. But when
Hmm.
it comes to personal finance, I feel like there is a right and a wrong way to do personal finance
For
because it's a
sure.
mindset, like at least how I see it. And something I always think about is when someone's like, I don't have the money, my first question is like, well, let's see where you're spending it. Like if you're the
Yeah.
Starbucks guy who's going there every single day and you're like, I don't have money to invest, but Starbucks costs, $8.50. Well, cut out
Yeah.
at Starbucks, go over to Crunchy Capital's YouTube channel, check out Acorns playlist.
Yeah.
He's got $1 a day, right? Like
Yeah.
it's as
Yeah.
simple as it gets. So it's like it's a bit of a shame that that's the mentality of I don't have it, I can't do it. I don't know if that's more of like the mentality of I don't want to do it or I'm scared and I'm just not going to take the steps.
I think it's a scarcity mentality because it's almost like, and this is what I see with a lot of people, because I talk to a lot of people in person as well. People that I know personally, not just random folks, but people that don't want to give up the luxuries or the pleasures for their purpose,
Mm,
right? So I operate purpose over pleasure, not pleasure over purpose. So I'm willing to give up that Starbucks. I'm willing to give up that steak dinner for my future, but a lot of people aren't really willing to live uncomfortable, a little more uncomfortable than they would, or like a little more inconvenient, should I
sure.
say? That's what I see in a lot of people. Also, is the lack of just sight. They
Sure.
don't really know how that could affect them as a dollar. No one thinks about it, but in 2, 3 years from now, that dollar a day is could be exactly what you need. You know,
Yeah.
who
No,
knows?
it's inspiring. Like I almost want to go back. I will go back after this video and check out the playlist. I'm curious to know exactly where you finished off at. But it's powerful. $1 a day again with fractional shares. Where should someone jump into the market with in terms of an investment app? Did you like Robinhood? Should they go to an Acorns first? I went to Vanguard first just because when I started investing, Vanguard was all over. It had,
Hmm.
I mean, it's John Bogle's company, right? So what's John Bogle known for? Indexes,
Right.
low fees, like come trade with us. And I was like, that's a no-brainer
Yeah.
for me. But today, I think Robinhood's also no fees, if I'm not mistaken. It's probably all
Robinhood has no
there, but I still
fees.
use Vanguard. Where'd you start and what would you recommend?
Man, I started when I first started in my beginning days, I started with Stash. I don't know if you know what Stash is.
Gosh, I remember that. I remember it.
This the platform is totally different now, but back then it was you had to buy and it would buy and sell at a specific time. I forget what that's called. You know what I mean? And it wouldn't buy till the next day at 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. So that's when I started on that platform. I think now it's more like Robinhood is. But
Sure.
man, whatever. If Robinhood's great to start, uh, I personally use probably like almost every app there is out there due to
Sure.
YouTube. But like Robinhood, Robinhood is one of my favorites. If you want more automated, I would say like something like Acorns, but they do have fees, so watch out for that. M1 Finance. I mean, you can also automate Robinhood. You can automate Vanguard, Fidelity, all of that as well. It just
Sure.
depends on what you like aesthetically, I guess, because they all look. Some of them look more funky than others
I was
on
gonna
the
say
app.
I think Robinhood's all about like I think like the Vegasy kind of like flashy, like it's
Yeah,
right now it's in, it's trendy. Vanguard is like the old school. There's nothing to it. There's nothing pretty about it, man.
Yeah, yeah,
So we were just talking about, well, one, you got a girlfriend, right? You no kids, but you
right.
have a
No
partner.
kids.
But we're talking about personal finance. I wanted to go back to this quickly because I really do feel like it's all about becoming financially fit. A part of financial fitness is, in my opinion, finding a partner who you're financially compatible with, because that
Hmm.
partner is going to be with you on the journey. And you talk a lot about budgeting. How do you go about the conversations with your partner in terms of, are they on the same page as you? Like I go to this question with a lot of investors, because I feel an essential aspect that's often not spoken about
Hmm.
is who you're surrounding yourself with. That's friends,
Yeah.
but that's really the person closest to you. And I can be honest, I'm not going to be anything other than honest, right? It's like when I started dating my girlfriend now, again, it's like one of the first things I said is like, here's my dream, here's what I'm looking to do. So here's why I don't spend a lot of money.
Yeah,
Like, but it's
yeah.
like, oh, do you want to join me on that dream? It's taken her some time to kind of get used to, right? She was actually a really good saver. I'll give her that. She doesn't invest, but now it's like she kind of sees, we've been together for about a year.
She
She's
sees the
the magic of
purpose.
investing, and she
Yeah, yeah.
purpose, and she's like all in now. How do you go about navigating through like the relationship through the financially savvy eyes?
So, um, very first thing I would say is this: if you know me personally in real life, then you know the type of person I am. I don't really spend money. I keep. I don't find joy in spending money. I find joy in different things. Like material stuff really isn't where it's at for me. You know what I mean? So like I don't, even though I have the capability to have really nice and flashy things, it doesn't do anything for me. So I don't buy nice, flashy things, should I say, right? Um, so appearance wise, straight up, like if we would meet, then it would be that. But I've been knowing this chick for quite a while, so she knows how I am. She knows that I don't really do a whole bunch. So she's also very she's got a good career. She's well established where she's at. So like she makes great money. You know what I
Sure.
mean? She doesn't have the same mindset as I do as far as like investing and saving, which she does. She does have, some stuff going on, but she's not way into it like I am.
Sure.
She might spend a little more frivolously, but that's okay. You know what I mean? If it's
Right.
her money, that's what she wants to do, and it's all about finding the right person or having the right conversation. If it's new, right? If I meet someone new and they don't fully understand it, I'd have to break it down for them. But luckily, I was lucky enough that this chick knew my lifestyle. She knew how I already was, so there was no questions about that.
Sure. I always bring it up because I have to, again, like I'm being honest, right? Like I had this girlfriend in my early 20s where, everything was laid out on the table. I like to save, very frugal,
Hmm.
massive difference between frugal and cheap, right? And
Yes.
spending money where you like to spend it. First of all, you're a millionaire simply because you're not attracted by the allure of all the materialism. Because again, it's like, think of Warren Buffett, right? Like that says takeaway is money, wealthy in the heart, like just a wealthy
Yeah.
individual for his outlook. But now add the money in, and that's how you're really going to be able to save it, grow it, compound it. But I remember dating this girl, and it was like, why didn't you buy me flowers? Or like, but like not that I never bought her flowers, like weekly, right? Like, or why can't you buy
Yeah.
her jewelry? And it was like, wait, like I have this dream, and I've also had a couple buddies of mine too, like along the way, right? Where it's like when you're with the wrong person, you're not financially aligning. That's a
Yeah.
value issue. It's like, do you align on the same values? That's why I always ask that question, because I really feel like people can get mixed up when it comes
Yeah.
to invest or trying to grow as an individual and invest and build yourself. And instead it's like you're throwing money at all the wrong things. So
Yeah. It's definitely. I mean, I've been in situations like that as well. In relationships like that. But it's just it's it's hard to show someone what something means to you when they don't see it the same way you do.
yeah,
So sometimes some things aren't meant to happen.
yeah, yeah, yeah. that relationship now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
look, this is like straight up. I got the first date with my now girlfriend, and it was like the first date. I said a couple of crazy things, right? But it was like I'm a straight shooter, and I said, "Here's how my outlook on life. Here's my life story. I think you're the one." I did say that, and she said, and then I said, "Stick around," because she was like, How do you know?" I'm like, "Just stick around." But
Yeah.
one of the things I factored in there was actually just sharing with her, like, the reason why I want to save, invest, and take all these risks when it comes to real estate investing, the stock market, and I'm going to throw 110 into all of this is
Hmm.
because it's the ultimate setup. It's like I
Yeah.
want to be a good provider for my future family, and I think all of that just wraps up into one, right? Like it's like where's the real, I guess, the mission for someone, right? Like
Yeah.
are they saving it for themselves, or are they actually saving? Because it's like for me, I'm growing everything I have right now to give my family everything I really want. Therefore, I don't have time for, like you said, all the materialism or the
Hmm.
things that don't really matter in life, right? It's like experiences matter with her, with me,
Yeah.
experience together, and then building this family, right? Come the future. So incredibly important, I think, man. And happy you touched on that. I got a couple more questions for you, and I don't know if you watch a lot of my videos there when I talk about macroeconomics. I am a huge fan of macroeconomics, taking a step back from the market and really analyzing history and the present to see what's going on. And I like to say macros matter. Now, some people actually think I'm saying when I say macros matter, I time the market. That is not at all what I mean by that. I'm just saying I'm looking at macro factors, then looking into certain sectors, then into certain stocks based on where we're at economically speaking. But with
Yeah.
that, right now we are looking at a pretty interesting, I think, macro environment. And I think it's like a Goldilocks situation where inflation has come way down since this time last year. We're now hovering around 3.5% inflation. We have a incredibly robust labor market that has been persistent throughout the whole year, all of 2023, which has been miraculous. Talk about, like, hate to use the word unprecedented, but it's been pretty year on top of other unprecedented years.
Right. Right.
We still have the Fed, however, that is very hawkish, and Jerome Powell and other Federal Reserve officials seemingly leaning towards another interest rate hike, which I don't know if it's going to
Hmm.
do that much damage, because I think at the end of the year or at the end of the day here, high interest rates with inflation above 3%, it's just very pressuresome either way. So whether it's 5.5% terminal rate, 5.75, it doesn't really matter. It's high. My question here is, I see a lot of uncertainty coming our way. So I want to
Yeah.
ask you, one, if you factor in economics at all, because, like, again, like Peter Lynch even factored it in as best as he could, although he did
Hmm.
famously say if you study 14 minutes of economics, you've wasted 13 minutes. I want to know if you use macroeconomics at all, and I also want to know your outlook for the rest of the year and how you're strategizing entering 2024, because we're basically almost there.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that I use macroeconomics probably to the same effect you do, but I do look at certain factors. Like I know that if the economy is doing bad and people aren't spending, then it's going to look bad on the companies. Not this quarter, not this quarter, but next quarter. So if it's going to be bad that quarter, should I stack cash up to put more money into the stocks that I want that I know are going to go down because they're going to have a worse quarter than last year's because of what's going on now? So something like that, but I don't do a whole bunch of factoring in a big scale, just certain little things like
It seems like what matters, though, right? It's like,
that.
what's the overall economy look like? If it's bad,
Yeah.
invest or hold cash. If you think it's going to be bad, if it's
Hmm.
good, it's like probably dollar cost average. And again, like, check out what the
Yeah.
undervalued or fair valued stocks and continue to invest. Simple approach. Again, I wouldn't expect anything different from a fellow dividend investor. Uh, my last question for you, Mike. It is, I think, the hottest of hottest questions. I always save it for the last one. And I want to give you over at Crunchy Capital 10,000
Hey,
virtual dollars. And I want to share with you the one rule: you can invest the virtual 10K into an ETF or an index fund, but you can invest it into any individual stock. Which stock would it be right now and why?
mm, right now, I would probably, I'd probably put it into Apple. As weird as it sounds, it's not a dividend stock, but it does have a dividend because I do see them upping that dividend a little bit more in the foreseeable future, and because I'd like to get 100 shares of it so I could run that will strategy on it, so I can make more money coming into my portfolio, so I can then add more money in two different lanes.
Heck yeah. You heard it here, investors. First, he would invest the 10,000 virtual dollars into Apple. That is my favorite company. Of course, it is actually my largest position outside of the foundation of an ETF in my portfolio. So kudos on that. I love it. Investors,
Nice.
head over to Crunchy Capital. Go check out Mike Ramiro's channel. Get into his insights and dividend stock ideas because they are straight gold, fire, and everything that you need as an investor, whether you're a beginner or more experienced. Mike, I want to personally thank you for joining me on a Masters of the Market chat. It's sincerely been a pleasure and an honor to have you on. And of course, investors, until the next time, we will see you all there.